It starts at Anfield because how could it not? Official, Alexander Isak is a Liverpool player. Months of standoffs, rejected bids, and public frost between Newcastle and the player ended with one thud of a briefcase. £130 million, the biggest fee in British football history, a contract to 2031, and a presentation that's about to look like a title-charged trailer. Arne Slot gets a 27-goal striker who attacks space like it owes him money, drops in cleanly to link, and makes a pressing unit meaner by the minute. He's expected to debut this week. Anfield is already setting the lights. When one door slams in football, another one hinges open for a different club. Newcastle, braced for Isak's exit, pressed fast on a reshaped attack. Wissa, after an all-summer to Govar, moves from Brentford for £55 million. Medical done. Number 9, waiting. He brings 19 and 35 from last season, the mobility to hunt channels, and the stubborn edge Eddie Howe prizes. Alongside him, Nick Waltemate arrives from Stuttgart, 198 centimeters of aerial violence with the feet of a no. 10, when he drifts. It's not just replacement hits recalibration, a new pairing to rebuild the entire forward dynamic in one swoop. Across Manchester, the goalposts shifted in a single domino run. Gianluigi Donnarumma is a Manchester City player, signed through 2030 after Luis Enrique's bet on Lucas Chevalier left Paris with one too many no. 1 south the price. €35 million plus bonuses. The timing immediately after Ederson's goodbye. City's Brazilian metronome heads to Fenerbahce for €14 million. A move stitched by Jorge Mendes and the Turkish club's brass. 8 seasons, 17 trophies, and the aura of calm that underpinned Pep's empire. Ederson wasn't just a goalkeeper, he was a way City breathed. Calling him a leader isn't sentimentality. It's the truth of a backline that took its cues from his shoulders. Donnarumma, he's 26, a shot-stopping monolith with a presence that fills the area, a voice that carries, and distribution that's improved enough to trust in a system that demands bravery with the ball. James Trafford has the tools and the temperament of a future starter, but City wanted the voice now. Donnarumma isn't just a new no. He's the new captain of the penalty area. The red side of Manchester finally turned a page that's been stuck for 2 summers. Antony is a Real Betis player on a permanent deal. €25 million plus bonuses, a salary cut the Brazilian accepted to make it happen, and a clause so unusual it makes agents blink. United retain 50% of any future sale, not profit, the full fee. That turns an expensive misfire into a tethered asset. If Betis polish him back to elite sale value, United still cash in. He scored 9 and assisted 5 on loan, reached a European final, and now gets permanence in Seville, while United slammed shut another chapter from the Ten Hag scrapbook. And speaking of the Dutchman, his Bundesliga reboot never cleared the runway. Bayer Leverkusen set the bar. Win, or we talk. A 3-2-3 draw, after leading twice, on the heels of an opening defeat, was the last straw. 2 rounds. A dressing room bristling captain Robert Andrich's public sting and a board unwilling to wait for the international break. Ten Hag departs with the project still on the launchpad. His reputation looking for oxygen and Leverkusen shortlist already humming. Sebastian Hoeneß, Rolf Rangnick, even a Serie A curveball names are swirling before the Champions League anthem returns. United, though, didn't just cut, they built. The goalkeeper saga ended with clarity. Sen Lammens arrives from Royal Antwerp for €21 million plus bonuses, contract to 2030. Paperwork sliding under the deadline on a deal sheet. After Andre Onana's wobble and Beyender's inconsistency, United went for a profile they believe can own the Shirt League clean sheet leader, Antwerp's Player of the Year, the kind of presence you design a back 5 around. Martinez hovered as a parallel option, but the club chose trajectory and control. Lammens comes in to compete for no. 1, not just warm it elsewhere. The Premier League's carousel kept turning with a kind of cold logic. Jadon Sancho heads to Aston Villa on loan. A fee attached and 80% of his £250,000 a week wages covered by the Birmingham side. It's a rescue mission wrapped in a reboot. Villa haven't scored in 3 league games. Unai Emery loves reclamation projects, and Sancho needs a defined brief and regular minutes. No option to buy, but plenty of room to set the table for June if the partnership clicks. He turned down Roma and Besiktas because he wanted the Premier League crucible. Now he's got it, at a price that reminds everyone this is the last big audition. Spurs did something they rarely do, a pure rental at the sharp end. Randall Kolo Muani arrives from PSG on a 1-year loan, €5 million fee, wages covered, no option. He scored 10 and 22 at Juventus last spring and brings Champions League lungs to Thomas Frank's new-look front line. With Mohamed Kudus and Xavi Simons already signed and Mathys Tel bought outright, Tottenham are building an attack that can shapeshift every 3 days. He'll fight for starts with Richarlison and Dominic Solanke. The message to all 3 is identical form picks. The team. Inter moved pragmatically to Manuel Akanji joins from City on a loan that costs €2 million with a €15 million buy that only becomes mandatory if Inter wins Serie A and he plays at least half the matches. It's smart, conditional risk for a side that needed fresh legs. At the back, after a stinging loss to Udinese, he brings treble experience and plug-and-play versatility. Simone Inzaghi doesn't need a syllabus to trust him. Bayern, caught short by injuries and exits, finally completed their own saga. Nicholas Jackson crosses on a record-paid loan €15 million for the year, with a €65 million obligation in 2026. A total package of €80 million that makes him one of the most expensive forwards in the club's history once the trigger is pulled. Chelsea agreed after they secured cover elsewhere. Bayern get pace, dribbling, and a north-south threat that fits Vincent Kompany's system like a glove. Villa weren't done with Sancho. Harvey Elliott arrives on a loan with a mandatory £35 million by next summer, Liverpool inserting both a buyback and a salon. Slot's retuned midfield and the arrivals of Wirtz, Ezekiel, and Isak squeezed Elliott's minutes. Emery hands him a guaranteed lane in the Europa League campaign. It's a strategic exit. Not a good buy. Liverpool want the right to rewind if he explodes. Down the table. Nottingham Forest moved fast when a previous left-back deal collapsed. Oleksandr Zinchenko joins on loan, no option. Forest covering a chunk of his £150,000 weekly. He can't face Arsenal due to regulations. But the plan is clear: leadership on and off the pitch, European experience, and tactical elasticity in Nuno Espirito Santo's evolving shape. In the same breath, Forest paid a club record €40 million for Strasbourg's Dylan Bakwa, a left-footed right-sider with 15 League One goal contributions, who chose the city ground over Glossier zip codes. 12 newcomers already. This is a full rebuild with European ambitions, not survival twitches. Turkey's window keeps an extra beat, and Galatasaray were ready to use it. Ilkay Gündoğan has City's blessing to fly to Istanbul for a medical and a contract to 2027. At around €5 million a year, he returned in 2024 to steady the Etihad in a crunch, played 50 games, and now steps into a role that asks him to be the beaming face of a continental heavyweight's resurgence. This is one of those moves that makes sense in football logic and folklore at the same time, but not everything ends with confetti. Liverpool, even after their Isak thunderclap and midfield refresh, suffered a loud miss in the final hours. Mark Guéhi to Anfield was supposed to be done £35 million, plus a 10% seal on medical passed. Deal sheet filed. Banners practically ironed. Then Palace's plan unraveled. Igor Julio failed a medical before opting for West Ham. The JD pickup wasn't deemed enough. Oliver Glasner threatened to walk if his captain was sold on the eve of Europe. Palace pulled the plug. For Liverpool, this was about succession planning. Ibrahima Konate hasn't extended and, per Spanish whispers, has talked to Real Madrid. Guéhi was meant to slide in beside Virgil van Dijk and absorb the system. Instead, it's a pause button. Guéhi's deal ends in 2026, so the Reds can return without panic or premium. Call it a fiasco tonight. Call it a bookmark in January. If Konate really sails to Madrid, Guéhi still fits the empty Cherryong, English, left-sided comfort. Captains, poise. One last postcard from Spain. Girona nabbed Vladislav Vanat from Dynamo Kyiv for €17 million. Contract to 2029. 14 goals last season and a frame that fits La Liga's counter-to-control tempo. Girona want redemption after limping. 2/16. Vanat arrives as the tip of that intention.